Hello everyone, Phoenix61 here with your daily dose of World of Warships Legend shenanigans. How's it going, everybody? We're rocking the Minotaur. This is the moment in the game where I complain about being middle spawn and Minotaur on this map, but it's fine. We will deal with it. We're rocking Smokescreen. We got that if we need it. We will help support our destroyer if he's going to go and try and get the zone cap, right? We'll do our duty here. Got a Shimikaze enemy out there, right? So we just got to keep out, but other than that, that's the only destroyer, right? So damage farming we go potentially here. Then I'm not sure what our Kaba's doing, right? He kind of seemed to move away, but right, a little bit different of a destroyer type, right? So I'm going to slow down here, and because I kind of with this map on this spawn, sometimes I try to like to slow play it a little bit here to see which sort of side people show up on, right? Like which way I could best support, especially being in Minotaur. I don't want to be the one spotting ships, so we're gonna slow play it just for a little bit here and see what pops up. And then yeah, our destroyer went way wide. I get it, he's not a, he's probably doesn't have the greatest concealment in in destroyer terms, right? So he's gonna want to do cheap shots on unsuspecting ships as he runs away and ducks and hides and all that other fun stuff. So totally get it. But nonetheless, we'll keep our point here. We'll play our flank or whatever, the middle here as much as we can. We are located here, right? So if that Shimikaze is the one running a, twist and track or perceptive, we are the closest to him, but we're not sure on that yet. Could be somebody else potentially. A lot of the Dutch cruisers, some of those commanders and stuff have it out there. But now B is getting capped, right? And we can't see who that is. I see a smoke screen out there too, right? So it's probably the Shimikaze in the B hole here. So I waited a little bit, and then we'll trip our sonar. I saw these bullets coming towards us, but they're shooting the battleship behind us, right? And we know that the enemy team on this flank, they spawn opposite of us. So I'm going to assume the Shimikaze is probably on this side. So we'll send torps through the zone here, just kind of hope to get lucky. And then that smoke screen, I'm going to guess, is a cruiser that's out there. Right, I think we might have had like a Dalian or something, right? So they're chilling in their smoke, doing the same thing I am, hoping for some easy targets to pick on while they can be in the safety of their smoke. So just being a little bit patient here is going to pay off for us. Right? Don't be the Minotaur, that's the first one dead, right? Don't be that guy. And we do have another game lined up for us after this one here. So Burgoyne finally moves up enough where we can get some shots on him. And we do get a hit there. So we can kind of see where that torpedo hit. And we'll take a guess that that is the Shimikaze. And then, yep, there's the Dalian that we were suspecting out there as well. I'm going to hold off on the guns here. We only have 30 seconds or so left on our torpedoes, right? If this guy knows what's up, he would send torpedoes through the smoke. And he does, right? So just enough time our sonar picks those up. He sends all 3 racks at us, right? So we know he is out of torpedoes for at least a minute or so. And then we get spotted here. It's tough to tell who it is. It's probably that Shimikaze because my smoke's going away, right? Hindenburg is not looking this way, so I'm going to just take this moment to just get some cheap hits on him. And then we got a Schlieffen on the enemy team that pushed up and through the zone way too quick, right? And then we've got a little over a minute and a half before our smoke screen is ready. And we know, right? We know there's still a destroyer out here somewhere, right? We got 1 torpedo hit on him. So another one would probably finish him, since it's a Shimikaze, right? We're going to have a tough time hitting this Dalian as he's kind of at range and sort of kiting and ducking and weaving away, right? So, and then of course we'll hold on to the fire because we don't want to take a Shimikaze torp and flood. Just being cautious here for the sole reason that we know it's a Shimikaze destroyer out here somewhere, right? Now we go undetected, though. And then also our Kaba, right, our destroyer finally came in to help support, all right, help support capping this zone. So we've got that going for us as well. He could potentially spot for us. So we'll move up a little bit here. Right, Minotaur is one of the cruisiest of cruisers, right? I like to say where you do have to play conservative quite a bit. If you end up, especially if you're broadside to a heavy hitting battleship or cruiser, right, you're going to lose your ship real quick and be back at port real quick. So we are playing on the cautious side. I'm more so curious about where that Shimakaze went more than anything right now at this point. I was kind of thinking maybe he came through this direction, but he also could have gone over towards Alpha, right, since A is getting capped as well right now. So very much so, like at this point, I'm like, I probably should have headed that way. I probably should have headed towards A. But there's still 3 ships out here north of, or, you know, sort of east of B here, right? That direction. And then the other 2 cruisers off to this side over by Alpha, right? So our folks over at Charlie should be able to come through and get that capture. There's the Shimakaze. We'll see if we can finish him off. We'll get those. We'll take that risk. Yeah, somebody else knew what was up. Nice job, Kaba. That did get us spotted, though, but that's not too big of a deal at the moment. Right, their one, I think it's in Ohio, right? He doesn't have, their one battleship doesn't have a shot on us at the moment. We're going to have smoke screen ready, too, if we want to drop it here. And then Hindenburg, and I think maybe a Brisbane or something else was up here as well. Right, so we'll drop smoke and hope that somebody else can spot. But yep, we're losing health real quick, right? We're taking real heavy hits. So smoke, and then we'll use the heal. And then we're going to drop sonar here as well. Brisbane's got pretty long-range torpedoes, and the Hindenburg does too, but I think they're 6-kilometer range, right? So we're out of his range unless he like did something weird and built into torpedoes or something, but which I would not do. And they're getting blind fire shots on us, right? We're not actually spotted. They're just kind of looking into the smoke and taking a guess based on when we fire our guns. So they're only going to get like little bits and pieces of us here and there. That was a little bit lucky of them to get a fire. And see if we can get the kill here. Nope. A fist. And then Brisbane pushed up real hard here, right? So we're going to see if we can challenge him. Right, we're very similar ships here, so we'll have to see how this goes. He does have an option for, he's got lots of torpedoes just like we do. He's going to send, yep, he's picking us up with radar, or with sonar, right? He does have an option for HE shells instead of only AP that we have in the Minotaur. That'll be probably the biggest difference. I think his torpedoes are a little bit better range, but very similar ship though, very similar hull. So we can get a decent angle here, right? We're going to get Citadel hits on him through the nose, just under those front turrets. 2 more, and 5 total there. That gives us devastating strike on him as well. That game ended quite abruptly towards the end there. So we'll take a look at the leaderboard here. That did put us at the top with 2,700 XP. It didn't really kind of feel like we did all that much work, but we did. And then we have another game lined up here, right? So I have a Vlad game, right? Vladivostok, right? So these are 2 ships that I kind of don't play too often. You don't see me out there in Minotaur very much. Or the Vlad, right? The Soviet battleships I feel like I always kind of struggle with. But we'll go through the build real quick here. Aiming system mod on my Minotaur for slot 1. And you don't get an option for propulsion mod, so I use steering gears there. Concealment in slot 2. And then I do have the reload booster, the epic reload right there, to give it a little bit faster reload. I don't know that it's needed, right? You don't need anything, right? And then I'm using Chancellor Gowron, right? So he's a little bit more AP focused of a build. And so we've kind of just gone full on AP damage with this. Punch through and fixated, and then refill station for the legendary perk for the better reload, right? So, and then Vlad, and we get the same exact spawn point that I like to complain about here. This is the moment of the match where I complain about being middle spawn in a slow-moving Soviet battleship. But Plymouth out there kind of giving us good angle, but we don't have the best accuracy at range in the Soviet ships and the Russian ships, right? So we have to get lucky with an overpen there, I think, right? So. But we'll move up, and kind of same thought process here. This is kind of what I like to do. I like to kind of split this island, right, and be able to, you know, at least for this beginning couple of minutes of this game, till we kind of see where ships end up, right? So this way I can kind of support either side depending on where enemies get spotted, right? So we'll hang tight and slow play it a little bit here. We'll line up that shot. We'll use the spotter plane for the better dispersion. Get just a little bit. Like I said, these are hard ships to shoot at range. The shtick with these was always if you could get in close, I think within that like 11 or 12 kilometer range on these Soviet battleships, their accuracy is better at those ranges. But these days, right, there's so much stuff out there, airstrikes, and so many ships have longer range torpedoes than they used to, and stuff like that, right, where you're gonna get floods and fires on you way more than you used to. So pushing up with these ships is a lot more risky than it used to be when the line first came out, right? So I think they could use a little bit of love. But we're getting a little bit of chunky damage on that Amagi, so we're up to 24,000. I won't complain about that just yet. Bismarck's giving us angle 2, and like I said, right, we'd be a little bit better off if we could get closer in, but it's just a little bit too early for us to push, right? Somebody did take out their destroyer, so that's great. That's really good for us. And then we've got our destroyer capping Bravo here, capping the B-hole for us, so. But yeah, 4 battleships on the enemy team on this flank, right? So if we would have sort of just gone the direction that the game points us when we spawn, we would have been on the other side and not been able to support, you know, this capture where kind of the bigger battle is happening, at least at the moment, right? Yeah, 1 shell hit there. Be a hovercraft, right? Very similar ship to this, just a paid version. I think with the Blue Archive hovercraft, right, you could do a secondary build on that if you wanted, but otherwise pretty similar ship. This one, like the range on secondaries just isn't there. So we'll take our shot at the Flander, and then we'll start moving in this direction, right? We'll see if we can start trying to take advantage of the strengths of this ship, right? So this is kind of one of those things where it's like, it's a good scenario for this ship, right? Where we don't have a lot of those, like, we don't have a lot of destroyers that are going to fire spam and flood spam you with torpedoes. We don't have a lot of cruisers that are going to fire spam you, and potentially cruiser torpedo boat cruisers, which are newer to the game than they used to be, right? That could be sending torpedoes, right? A lot of zoning torpedoes, right? So this is kind of the ideal situation for this ship, and that's why it's going to work out well for us, right? So we start moving in, and as we get closer, you'll see us start significantly better shots and more damage and stuff like that. So we'll start pushing up on these guys. And just as I say that, we get a miss there, right? We got a hit, just didn't do any damage. And he was turning out, right? So, but here's kind of where the range that works a little bit better, right? So we'll shoot at this hovercraft. Like I said, that's very similar ship to this. It's just a paid premium variant of it, unless you were lucky enough to get it out of a crate during that Blue Archive collaboration. Right, so I'm picking on each. I'm switching between these two because they're both angling to me, and I just like getting the defend ribbons for the XP. Because, well, on this ship, I am still working towards the tier 8. And I'm kind of surprised we didn't take worse hit there. We were giving up a decent amount of angle, but we'll take the shot at the Flounder since he's given us really good angle. And decent amount of damage, right? Same situation, same kind of thing. I know Amagi, we could probably get Citadels on him, so I'm shooting at him. We have a little bit better chance of getting those bigger hits. He's still within that range, but yeah, the Bismarck absolutely is closer. But yeah, we do get a good hit there. And then all right, we'll take the shot at the Bismarck since he's right here. All right, so there we're landing more shells, a little bit over 10 grand damage for that salvo on a Bismarck. That's not half bad, we'll take that. And then we're gonna continue to move through the zone here. I was a little surprised that this hovercraft started pushing up on us like this, but we'll take it. Right, so here's where we're really going to want to watch our angling. We're going to want to make sure we point at him as best we can. And then we want to shoot right there. Citadel is underneath those top turrets. I was kind of thinking maybe I could knock a turret and have a little bit better chance, but honestly, I should have shot lower at the hull, and I should have just gone for Citadel hits there. But so we're gonna keep ourselves angled, right? We can move up and turn left if we need to, right? So we'll do that to try and not give too much angle up. A little bit nervous about how like my delayed reaction here and getting that going. But if he knows, yeah, so he's hitting us right there, right in the hole below the turrets. We're going to do the same thing to him, and we'll get those 2 Citadel hits and take him out. So it only took 2 shots. Page ships sink just as well as the rest of them, guys. And then we do need to watch our angling for this lander. Right, these are probably mostly secondaries coming at us. Most people like to do secondary builds with that ship. I do. So we'll start turning in so that if he does hit us with mains, shouldn't be a big deal. And we'll use the damage con, right? We've got the limited number of damage cons with the damage control parties with the Soviet battleships. But we do, in our build, we get a couple extra, right? So I think at base starts out at 2 or 3, and so through our build, which we'll go through at the end of the video, right? You can get a couple extra ones, which I prefer to do. And then the cooldown on it is significantly better. So that's kind of the difference on that, right? So you get a limited number of them, but cooldown comes back quite a bit quicker. And so we get this point in the game where we're kind of doing pretty well, and I've still got several damage control parties left to play with, right? I'll start using them on single fires and stuff, right, as we see fit. Nice chunky hit on Bismarck. So that does put us up in that 130,000 range, so that'll be nice. But yeah, this is one of those ones where it's just like situation was here. We had battleships in close proximity that didn't have, like, you know, torpedoes and stuff like that, or destroyers supporting them, and so or airstrikes, right, like that kind of thing. So it was a good situation for us to be able to move in and try and capitalize on that, right? But you don't always run into that. So that's why I was like, you know, if you don't have the right situation with these ships, they definitely feel underpowered, at least to me, these days, with all the new stuff that's been added to the game since these originally came in, right? So we'll continue to pick on the Yamagi. He's the only thing left. We're just watching our angling, right? So if we're angled like this, right, if we don't give broadside, he's not going to be able to, he's just going to do trinkets of damage to us with each salvo, right? He'd be better off probably shooting HE at us, right? If you know that, right? If you know that the Soviet battleships, right, have those limited number of damage control parties, right, you could fire spam them and make them run out of damage controls, right? So we get the kill there, and we'll take a look at the leaderboard for us. 133,000 damage there. We did get second place on that game, but it's pretty rare. I have a good Vlad game, so I wanted to put it out there with us, right? We'll quick go through the build. So I'm using aiming system here. You could go traverse, right, since it's kind of one of those ships where, you know, the preference is to get in closer if you can. And then same with that, you know, I'm using propulsion mod, but you could use steering gears. And then concealment for slot 2, and then reload time for the last, or for slot 3 concealment. Reload time for slot 4, you could do anything there, right? At tier 7, sometimes I like putting the AA mod on there just because there's a lot more likelihood to be carriers, right? But this is Lev Geller, so this weird-looking Queen of the Deep lady is just a Commander Geist, right? So we kind of build into accuracy and AP shell damage with the inspirations. This commander does have battleship main gun HE shell damage. I'm not sure I feel too great about that, right? But it is what it is. Traverse speed, AP shell damage. This perk gives us an extra 2 damage control parties, so that's what we're doing with that. And then reaching out for the better range. But you could, I don't know, you could do anything here, right? Like I said, it's tough because you get that with range, your kind of preference is to be a little bit closer if you can anyway, right? So then I'm using will to rebuild, but you could absolutely use fight fire with fire. I do kind of find will to rebuild, my preference is a little bit more on this ship just because you've got those faster reloading damage control parties if you're not using, if you're not going through all 5 of them, right? But that's going to be our video for the day, guys. Thanks for hanging out with me if you are still here. I try to put Legends videos out pretty much daily, and then special thank you to channel members that are subscribed to, that are members of the channel, right? So if you're interested in that, I've been starting to put your guys' name up on the videos at the end of these videos. These guys are supporting me, so do appreciate that. But yeah, like I said, Legends videos pretty much daily, so please feel free to subscribe. Click on my logo that shows up down in the bottom right to subscribe and check out the rest of the content on my channel. And those of you that are following, we'll see you guys again tomorrow.